Alright, so you picked up DRAKOBLOXXER, and he's pretty easy to play, but you feel like you're missing a thing or two. That's okay, because in this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. On one side of the spectrum, DRAKOBLOX might seem pretty easy to play, but on the other side, he might also seem like a one-trick pony if you don't actually learn how his moves fundamentally work. But at the end of the day, he is still a very one-dimensional rush-down killer. Pretty simple, so we're going to keep this one short. So without further ado, let's get into how to play DRAKOBLOXXER. Just like my Bloody Mary video, we're going to go over his moveset and then we're going to go over tips and tricks at the end. As we all know, DRAKOBLOXXER has two forms, his base form and his dinosaur transformation. But let's go over his base form first. First up we have is his passive called Bloodlust. This passive is a meter at the bottom of his screen that fills up when you deal damage. A secret passive to remember is that when DRAKOBLOXXER hits someone, he causes them to leak blood, causing a blood trail revealing where they are at. His M1 in base does around 20 damage and has a cooldown of about 1.5 seconds. His first ability is called In Search of Bodies. This ability allows him to become partially invisible and disables his terror radius, meaning his chase team won't play until it is already too late. And this move also highlights nearby survivors. The next move is called Feral Frenzy, which I'm sure so many of you are already familiar with. This move allows him to rush at a very high speed towards his opponents, but it's kinda difficult to control at times. If landed, you will deal 40 damage putting them into an animation, and you will get slowness after. Moving to his dinosaur form, his M1s now do 30 damage upon landing. His first move in his dinosaur form is called Prey Hunting. This move is pretty similar to his rush and his base, but instead, this one takes 2 seconds to charge. In return, it lasts longer for a whole 7 seconds, and you do 50 damage if you hit your opponent, but it's a much slower rush. The second and final move you have in his big form is called Bone Crusher. After a short startup, this move slams the ground, dealing 24 damage to anyone within the giant radius. Alright, now that we've briefly gone over all of DRAKOBLOXXER's moves, let's go over the tips and tricks. Alright, first thing I want to say is obviously DRAKOBLOXXER is not like Bloody Mary, so you are not forced to target, so make sure you take advantage of free hits and spread your DPS around. Now the thing about his dinosaur mode is that it does feel a little unfinished, and it is low-key worse than his base form, but it does have its uses. If you have the time on the clock and there's a crowd of people around, use the dinosaur form because it has a lot of AoE damage. And next up is if you can't find anyone and your invisibility tracker is on cooldown, look around for bloodstains. That can save you a lot of time. Now moving on to his first ability, which is the body search. This move is criminally underrated and arguably the actual best move in his kit. The reason I say this is because if you use this move within 10 seconds after killing an opponent, it will give you almost 2 times the regular running speed. This is huge because this means after killing an opponent, you're basically guaranteed a hit or two on whoever's close by. Because not only are you now partially invisible, you're now extremely fast. This basically means upon getting a kill with DRAKOBLOXXER, you scale upwards. So always use this move as soon as you get a kill. And remember, this does reveal location, so if you ever are struggling to find someone, make sure to pop this move also. Next up is tips on Feral Frenzy. This move is Draco's bread and butter, and to be honest, it's his only form of anti-loop. Now remember, I did say it's pretty hard to control, so make sure you take the time to learn how to use it and get used to the sharp turns. You can cancel this move early, so make sure to get used to doing that if you feel like you're gonna crash. And you can also cancel this move early simply to just throw off your opponents in a chase. And remember, this move is amazing to cancel loop spots because it allows you to move way faster than the survivors can, even at their top speed. Now moving on to his abilities within his dinosaur form, the first ability we have is Prey Hunting. This move is probably his weakest move. Well, not weakest, but his most useless one, because this move is a very high risk, very high reward. It does 50 damage, but it's only good if your opponent is pretty much cornered, otherwise they're probably not getting hit with this. Remember, prey hunting is nowhere near as fast as Pharrell Frenzy, so do not try to use it to try to keep up with them. Only use it when they're cornered. Now the last move we have to talk about is his Bone Crusher. This move is actually amazing, simply because it has a giant AoE, even bigger than what it shows you. This move slams the ground in front of him, dealing damage to anyone within the AoE, but actually it will damage people outside of it if they're close enough. That's how huge the hitbox for this move is. So if used correctly, this move can kind of be used as a anti-loop also. Now like I said, remember he is a rush down killer at heart, but if you take into account these tips and tricks, you probably won't lose a single game if I'm being honest, because he's probably the strongest killer in the game currently. But that's about it for my tips and tricks on DRAKOBLOXXER. He's a really fun killer to play, and he's second to Mary for me in terms of the killers I like the most. But look out for my guest guide that I will be dropping tomorrow. And with that being said, I'll see you boys and girls in the next one. Why am I so slow?